What's up, everybody? It is Broken Havoc here, right here on the Broken Havoc podcast, here to review AEW Dynamite from August 4th, 2021. It is AEW Homecoming live from Daly's Place in Jacksonville, hopefully for the last time in a long time, but overall thoughts on this show. I thought this was a pretty good show. Not the best show. If you compare it to a Fyter Fest Night 1, I mean, this show doesn't even compare. But this show was not bad. Of course, we had Juventud Guerrera returning to TNT, and all these years going up against Chris Jericho in the third labor of Jericho. Not only that, we also got the fourth labor for next week, which, needless to say, I'm kind of disappointed in the fourth labor. We also got the in-ring debut of Malakai Black, and Malakai Black looked extremely good in the match against Cody Rhodes. He absolutely annihilated Cody Rhodes in that match. But before I get on with the Dynamite review, I have two channel announcements. The first announcement being that with the debut of AEW Rampage coming up next Friday, every Saturday after the first episode of Rampage, I'm going to be uploading both my SmackDown and Rampage reviews back to back. So yes, I'm going to be reviewing Rampage from now on. It's going to be awesome. Rampage is definitely looking to be a really important show, especially with the show coming up August 20th. Of course, that is the show in the United Center, which I believe sold out already. But from Rampage starting, I'm going to be uploading Rampage reviews. Both the SmackDown and Rampage reviews are going to be separate, but they're going to be uploaded back-to-back on Saturday. And also, the second announcement is SummerSlam and All Out, of course, the two biggest shows that everybody's hyped up about, SummerSlam and All Out, of course. They're going to be really good shows, and with my reviews, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be live streaming both my SummerSlam review and my All Out review. Of course, SummerSlam is happening August 21st, Saturday, August 21st. I will be live after the pay-per-view ends, Saturday, August 21st, 2021. And also, with All Out happening Sunday, September 5th, 2021, I will also be live after the pay-per-view reviewing the whole show. So that is exciting for me and for the channel. I really want to try this whole live stream thing out. It's my first time live streaming, so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I'm really excited to live stream my reviews for these two huge pay-per-views that are happening later on in the month and next month. So it's going to be awesome to see. So SummerSlam and All Out will both have live streams right after the pay-per-view ends, so I will be live streaming those reviews when the show ends. So I'm really excited for that. First time we're going to be getting the Broken Havoc podcast live. It's awesome to see. But yeah, those are my two announcements. Of course, we got the Rampage reviews coming up and also the live streams, so it's going to be awesome to see. But back with AEW Dynamite. So what are my thoughts on this show? I did state earlier that this show was a good show, but it was not the best show. But let's start off with the show, of course. The first match, of course, we had was Chris Jericho going up against Juventud Guerrera, of course, Chris Jericho's old rival in WCW. I love the fact that Tony Schiavone is on commentary, and he's just talking about, all the matches that Jericho had back in, 1998 on Nitro, and he really mentions the match that they had in Sturgis, which, if you guys don't know what Sturgis is, it's basically Road Wild. Their Road Wild show happened in Sturgis. WCW always did the Road Wild shows, and a lot of the people that went on that show, basically that show was a free show, so you could easily attend the show. It was a motorcycle themed show. But the match with Juventud and Jericho that I was watching before this match happened was the match that they had at Super Brawl 8 back in 1998, February of 1998, of course, which had Chris Jericho basically remove Juventud Guerrera's mask. I was actually wanting for Chris Jericho to come out in that same mask he took off. That would have been awesome, but that didn't happen. But we still got Chris Jericho versus Juventud Guerrera on TNT. It was awesome to see. Now, granted, I wasn't alive when WCW was around, but I did watch a couple of their matches from WCW before I saw this match because I really wanted to get a glimpse of what was going on. I mean, I do have the Rise and Fall of WCW DVD, which it's not the best documentary. It's not really accurate talking about, WCW and stuff. If you compare that DVD to the Rise and Fall of VCW, the Rise and Fall of VCW, that documentary is more accurate than the Rise and Fall of WCW DVD. But in that DVD, it did have Chris Jericho versus Juventud Guerrera at Super Brawl Late. So I saw the match again, and I will say that was a pretty good match, and the match worked really well. I thought this match was a pretty good match. I mean, of course, Juventud Guerrera and Chris Jericho are way past their prime, but they still delivered in the ring. MJF, of course, comes out on commentary. So the match starts. Juvi goes after Jericho. We get a couple chops in the corner by Juventud. He takes down Juvi, that being Jericho. We get a Hurricane Rana from the top by Juventud. We get a clothesline on the outside by Juvi. He goes to the top. Leg drop on Jericho on the outside. He takes Jericho back in the ring. We get a missile drop kick by Juventud Guerrera. We get a cover and a near fall. Jericho takes out Juventud on the outside. We get a chop to the outside by Jericho. Takes Juvi to the timekeeper's area. We get a crossbody by Jericho. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a couple chops by Jericho. Then a kick by Juventud. We get multiple kicks by Jericho. Jericho takes out Juventud. And then Juventud hits the thrust kick. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a couple chops by Juventud. Then we get a sunset flip. We get a kick by Juventud. Juventud locks into submission in the ring, basically around the arm of Jericho. Jericho breaks out after that. We get a couple chops by Juventud. Jericho with the shoulder tackle. Then we get a second shoulder tackle by Chris Jericho. We get a double axe handle from the top by Jericho. We get a backbreaker after that. We get a cover, but it does not count because the stipulation in this match is that Jericho has to hit a move from the top rope, which I forgot to mention at the top, but that's the stipulation. Jericho has to hit a move from the top rope. That's why it did not count. But Jericho tries to rip off the mask of Juvi, of course, a little nod to their match at Super Brawl. Then Jericho's on the top. Juventud also goes to the top. Juvi with repeated rights. He tries to hit a Frankensteiner, but Jericho counters into a Lion Tamer. After that, Juventud gets his hand on the bottom rope. We get a kick by Juventud, swings Jericho to the mat. We get a thrust kick by Juvi after that. We get a cover and a near fall. Then Juventud hits a swinging DDT. Juventud hits the Juvi driver on Jericho. He covers him, but we get a near fall. Then Jericho all of a sudden hits the Judas effect. Then Jericho goes to the top. After that, he hits a spinning Judas effect from the top, which looked sick. I actually enjoyed that spot. Jericho covers Juvi and wins the match. Chris Jericho wins the third labor of Jericho, which, of course, everybody expected. I mean, Chris Jericho is going to be facing MJF regardless, but I mean, it was great to see Juventud back. But then, all of a sudden after that, Wardlow, out of nowhere, attacks Chris Jericho. MJF gets on the microphone and says Wardlow is labor number 4. What are my thoughts on Wardlow being labor number 4? I'm going to be 100% honest here. I was kind of disappointed. I expected somebody like, at least like a Big Show, because Big Show and Jericho were a tag team back in 2009, I believe it was. Yeah, 2009. And they had the best theme song ever. That was an awesome theme song, Jericho, of course. But, I mean, having Wardlow be labor number 4, I mean, it kind of eliminates the surprise element from the labors of Jericho, if you ask me. We did have Nick Gage and Juventud Guerrera come in, but it would have been much better if Juventud Guerrera kept in the 3rd spot. And it would have been much better if you had Wardlow as the number 2 spot and Nick Gage as the number 4 spot, because the 5th labor is not another opponent. It's going to be MJF. MJF is the 5th labor. But it would have been much better if you had somebody like a Nick Gage being the number 4 spot, the number 4 labor, and then you could have Wardlow as the 2nd labor. But apparently that's not going to be the case. It's all the other way around. Of course, we had Nick Gage last week, which was an awesome match. And, of course, this week we had Juventud, and next week we have Wardlow. In my opinion, I thought it would have been much better if the tides were turned a little bit and we had Wardlow in the second one and Nick Gage for next week. But, of course, we already had the Nick Gage match, and there's nothing we can do about it. But, of course, Wardlow is the 4th labor of Jericho, which, I mean, I thought it could have been somebody better, at least like somebody like a Big Show, because Jericho and Big Show have history. Or, I mean, it could have been somebody like a Lance Storm. A lot of people were saying Lance Storm, which, I mean, that wouldn't be bad. Lance Storm would be awesome, but, I mean, that did not happen either. But, yeah, Wardlow's going to be wrestling Jericho next week, and he's going to be accompanied by The Ring by MJF, so you never know. Jericho could possibly have somebody accompany him. Who knows? We're going to see in the future. We're going to see next week. My apologies. Backstage interview with the Lucha Bros. Dasha basically notices that Pac is not there, And then Alex Abrahante says that his travel was canceled and he wonders who that was. All of a sudden, Andrade El Idolo comes out and he asks for his thank you for the limousine. And Chavo after that says if you work for Andrade, they got first class airfare, first class everything. And then Phoenix states that they won't work for him, and Penta says no, and they walk out. What are my thoughts on this little segment that happened on the show? Eventually, I do feel that the Lucha Bros are eventually going to be teaming up with Andrade, and I do believe that the Lucha Bros will eventually turn on Pac, and we will no longer have Death Triangle as a faction anymore. But overall thoughts, I mean, it's going to be it's going to be really awesome to see the Lucha Bros with Andrade. That is an awesome pairing. Of course, when they first brought in Andrade 2 months ago or 3 months ago, I don't even remember. It was on the Dynamite after Double or Nothing. But when they brought in Andrade, I mean, of course, his mouthpiece was originally Vicky Guerrero. We all thought that AEW was going to sign Thea Trinidad. Of course, that is Selena Vega in the WWE. But of course, Selena Vega signed with the WWE, so that was kind of a bummer there. I mean, I was actually really excited to see Thea Trinidad come to AEW, but of course, she made her return on the SmackDown brand. Not only that, of course, he has Chavo Guerrero as a mouthpiece, which I will say Chavo Guerrero is much better than Vicky Guerrero as a mouthpiece. And also, eventually we're going to have the Lucha Bros team up with Andrade. So that's going to be an awesome pairing, in my opinion. And we do have trios titles. I do believe that AEW will introduce trios titles later on down the road. And those trios titles will fit perfectly for Andrade and the Lucha Bros. So we're going to be on the lookout for that. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen within a span of a few weeks. You never know. I mean, I do believe that the Lucha Bros will eventually turn on Pac. We get Tony Schiavone interviewing the Dark Order. Hangman comes in and says that he is sorry that he caused his shot for the tag titles. Of course, we had that 10-man elimination tag team match last week at Fight for the Fallen, which saw Hangman be the last wrestler on the side of the Dark Order, and he was facing off against Matt Nick Jackson and Kenny Omega, in which there was a lot of near falls. Jim Ross was on spot. Jim Ross was awesome on commentary during that match, especially near the end. But of course, we saw Hangman lose, so that sucked. But he says that he's sorry he caused his shot at the tag titles, and then the problems with Matt and Nick are problems that he created. He says that he has to fix them and says that he has to do this on his own. He says that they have to be on their separate ways, and then Evil Uno says that they should give Hangman a couple of space. So Hangman wants to be on his own for now. I mean, what are my thoughts on this? I mean, I do believe that this will definitely play out in the story because Hangman, whether you like it or not, Hangman is the one to take the title off of Omega. I mean, it's safe to say everybody knows that, but of course, it's a good thing because of the fact that this is long-term storytelling. This story with Hangman Page and Kenny Omega has been building up since the beginning of AEW, ever since, of course, they were tag team champions. Of course, Hangman lost to Chris Jericho in that first match for the AEW World Title 2 years ago at All Out in Chicago. I mean, the story is playing out really well, but with the signings of CM Punk and Bryan Danielson, most likely, I mean, that's definitely happening, but I'm saying most likely because you never know. They're not made official, but everybody knows it's really happening. They could possibly change plans, and we still do not know the main event for All Out on September. So, there's a lot of things that can play out here, but we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. So, yeah. We got Daniel Garcia teaming up with Matt Lee and Jeff Parker, a.k.a. 2.0. They used to be Everrise in NXT, but they're now in AEW, of course, because they got released. So now they're known as 2.0 versus Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston, and Darby Allin. What are my thoughts on this match? I thought this was a pretty fun match to watch. It was a fun 6-man tag team match. There was a lot of spots happening in this match, I will say that. But it was a pretty good match to see. The match starts. Garcia and Darby lock up. We get a takedown and a cover by Garcia. We get a near fall. Crucifix by Darby. We get a near fall. Roll up by Darby when Matt Lee tags in. We got a right hand by Lee. Takes Darby to the corner. Kingston tags in. We got a couple chops by Lee, and then we get a couple chops by Kingston. We get repeated chops after that by Eddie Kingston. Works on Lee in the corner. Then Jeff Parker tags in. He chops on kicks. We get a couple chops by Kingston, my bad. Garcia tags in. Garcia works on Kingston during the picture-in-picture commercial break. Daniel Garcia and Everrise, my bad, 2.0, work on Kingston during the break after that. Once we're back from commercial break, after that, Kingston goes for a couple chops. Garcia fights back. We get a boot by Garcia. Kingston goes after Garcia in the outside. Sting faces off on Matt Lee after that. But then Darby Allin hits a suicide dive on Matt Lee. After that, Jon Moxley tags in, works on everybody. We got a German suplex on Lee. Jeff Parker gets hit from behind by Eddie Kingston. And Moxley with the paradigm shift on Parker. Darby tags in. He goes to the top and hits the coffin drop and wins the match. So Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston, and Darby Allin win the match. That was awesome to see. You know, I love seeing Eddie Kingston and Sting in the same ring. That is just awesome. In my opinion, I thought that was pretty badass. But overall thoughts on this match, this was a fun match to see. It was a fun match. You know, this is the first time I've seen Daniel Garcia. Not the first time I've seen Matt Lee and Jeff Parker. Of course, they used to be Everrise in NXT. Again, I don't watch a lot of NXT, but, you know, from the times that I watched NXT, Everrise was there. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, you know, the last time we saw Everrise on NXT was when it was like a backstage segment and they got attacked by Hit Row. So, yeah, I mean, it's great to see them in AEW, but I don't think they're going to... I feel like they're going to be frequently used on, like, Dark and Dark Elevation. I don't think they're going to be used on Dynamite constantly. That's just my opinion. But it was great to see Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley and Darby Allin team up. We got a video package of Brian Cage talking about Team Taz, all that stuff. He's just running down Team Taz. But we got another segment with The Elite backstage playing basketball. Of course, they did have that Space Jam entrance in promotion for that new Space Jam movie. I heard it was bad. I don't know. I didn't watch it. But there was a lot of little Easter eggs. And, you know, one thing that I like about, you know, watching the show and then going on Twitter at the same time is that a lot of fans note the small Easter eggs. And that's something I need to work on. Like, the small Easter eggs are there. You just don't see them. You have to, like, go back. So, Doc Gallows is wearing a Ric Flair robe. Doc Gallows, after that, challenges the Dark Order for the Impact Tag Team titles. So, it's going to be the first time on Dynamite, I believe, that the Impact Tag titles are going to be defended. I believe they did win the Impact Tag titles at the Slammiversary pay-per-view. The Young Bucks says that there's nobody left. And then Kenny runs down Hangman. Kenny has a Cookie Monster t-shirt. Now, why do I say that he has a Cookie Monster t-shirt? Cookie Monster, okay, what letter starts with Cookie and what letter starts with Monster? CM. I mean, last week you had Darby Allin say that, you know, even if you are the best in the world, and then this week, Kenny Omega's wearing a Cookie Monster shirt, and what is the abbreviation for Cookie Monster? CM. CM Punk? I mean, come on. That just makes the absolute most sense, in my opinion. But after that, says that Hangman blew it and says that the fans don't have any main event. Yeah, we'll see about that. All right. Our next matchup of the evening, we got Christian Cage versus The Blade. I thought this was a pretty okay match. Of course, Christian Cage... at this point, he was the number 2, but after getting this win, he went number 1 in the rankings. And he is the number 1 contender for Kenny Omega. Will that be at All Out? I don't know, but I'll talk about that later on. Blade and Cage brawl before the match starts. He throws Blade in the ring. The match starts. Blade works on Cage. Cage with repeated rights. Then Cage chases Blade around the ring. Then Cage is in front of the bunny. Then we get a cheap shot by Blade, my bad. Cage then fights back. Both get in the ring. Cage goes to the top. Bunny holds on to the leg of Cage. Layla Hirsch attacks the bunny. Blade catches Cage and tries to go for a DDT, but Cage counters with a DDT of his own. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. Blade throws Cage to the top rope. From commercial break, Blade works on Cage. And then we get repeated rights in the corner by Blade. Blade misses and lands on the post when Cage ducks. Cage jumps off the post on Blade to the outside. The crowd is chanting, "You still got it," to Christian Cage. Christian Cage looks great, by the way. He does. The crowd is absolutely right. Christian Cage, at his age, he's really good in the ring. We get a right hand by Cage. We get repeated rights by Cage after that. We get a right hand on the top of Blade. We get a right uppercut by Christian. After that, we get a sunset flip by Cage. We get a near fall. After that, we get an uppercut off the middle rope. Tries to apply the kill switch, but Blade blocks. Then Cage goes to the top. Then Blade drops Cage to the mat. He misses a boot. Then we get a power slam by Cage. We get a cover and by Blade. We get a cover and a near fall. Blade drops Cage face first. He kicks Cage. He tries to rip off the turnbuckle after that. Blade tries to grab the brass knucks, but then Cage, nice little tribute to his best friend Edge, hits a spear and wins the match. Overall thoughts on this match, I thought this was a pretty good match, as I said. And now Cage is the number 1 contender because he moved up from the number 2 to the number 1 rankings. Now he's going to be the number 1 contender for Kenny Omega for the AEW World title. I'll give you my thoughts when he has that backstage segment with Tony Schiavone. We got a video package with Santana Ortiz and FTR. Of course, the aftermath of what happened last week. Of course, Santana Ortiz faced off against Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler of FTR, which saw Cash Wheeler have that gruesome injury. And in this video package, they showed a close-up in slow-mo of how Cash Wheeler sliced off a part of the skin of his arm, which looked gruesome, and it was really tough to see. I will say that, but of course, Dax Harwood proposes one more match. Then Ortiz states that it's not over. So we're probably going to be getting a rematch with Santana and Ortiz and FTR, which I'm really excited to see. You know, last week's match ended, unfortunately, a little bit, out of nowhere because of the injury that Cash Wheeler sustained. But, I mean, what can you do? I mean, Cash Wheeler, that was a brutal injury from Cash Wheeler, but thankfully he's okay. But it's going to be great to see a match with Santana and Ortiz and FTR because those guys have really good chemistry in the ring, especially Dax Harwood and Santana and Ortiz. Those two guys are really good when it comes to storytelling. I mean, everybody, Ortiz and Cash Wheeler as well, but I feel like especially Santana and Dax Harwood, I feel like they make the feud because of the promos that Santana cuts and the promos that Dax Harwood cuts. So that's awesome to see. Tony Schiavone is everywhere on this freaking show. He's always everywhere on Dynamite. Like, this guy's teleporting like freaking Alex Marvez. He's interviewing, of course, the AEW Women's World Champion, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Tells Britt Baker that he knows that she is excited about Pittsburgh for next week. Of course, Dynamite and the debut of Rampage are going to be in separate nights next week in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He talks about her excited to basically Dr. Britt Baker DMD states that she's excited to be in Jacksonville again. Baker states that it was here in Jacksonville where she did win the AEW Women's Championship. And then all of a sudden, Red Velvet comes out and tells Britt red is not her color, but she wants a piece of DMD. After that, Britt, in typical Britt Baker fashion, cuts a crazy promo just running down everybody, of course, because she's a heel. Britt tells her that she beat her ass in 3 minutes, and Red Velvet says that she's 22-4 with 7 straight wins, and she did not have to cheat to win them. And then Britt says that she's a different wrestler because she is Dr. Britt Baker DMD. And then she says that she is Tony Khan's Golden Girl. And he approved of the match, and it's going to be next week on the debut of AEW Rampage in Pittsburgh. And then after that, we get a kick by Velvet on Rebel, and then Britt stomps on Velvet and then drives the crutch on Velvet and then leaves. So we got a match booked for next week on Rampage, our first match for Rampage. It is Dr. Britt Baker DMD versus Red Velvet. It's going to be an awesome match to see. I'm really excited to see that match, and I definitely think on the debut of Rampage, I mean, Dr. Britt Baker's going to, I keep saying Dr. Britt Baker DMD because it's so catchy, but Britt Baker's going to get a huge reaction on that show. I mean, I think she's going to be on Dynamite next week as well because both shows are going to be in Pittsburgh, but they're going to be separate nights because usually I do believe after the Chicago show, Rampage is going to be a taped show, but on the go home Rampages, they're going to be a live show. That's what I think. I think that's what's going to happen, but it's going to be awesome. We got our first match booked for next week. We got Britt Baker versus Red Velvet on the first episode of Rampage next Friday on TNT. So that's going to be awesome to see. We got a backstage interview with Andrade El Idolo. Chavo comes in and says that he found someone. He found Fuego del Sol. And then he asks him to shine his shoes. Fuego del Sol's like, what? Wait, I didn't sign up for this. And then what happens? Andrade attacks Fuego and then drives him to the steel door. And then Chavo tells the Lucha Bros if they keep teaming up with Pac, they will never be champions. So if that is not a little bit of a teaser of what we're going to be seeing when it comes to the Lucha Bros and Pac, I do believe that, again, I stated earlier on this review, I do believe that the Lucha Bros will eventually turn on Pac, and they're going to be turning to Andrade, and we're going to have a trios faction with the Lucha Bros and Andrade, which is going to be an awesome freaking faction if it happens, which most likely it will. It's going to be awesome to see those guys. If there are trios titles in the works, those guys are definitely going to be winning those trios titles. All right. We got Hangman Adam Page Tony Schiavone interviewing Hangman Adam Page. Again, Tony Schiavone is everywhere on this show. The Elite all of a sudden come out, and then Hangman says that there is something that he needs to clear off with Matt and Nick Jackson, of course, the AEW World Tag Team Champions, the Young Bucks. Omega and the Elite come in the ring. Omega says that he needs new friends. Trying to take his title, and he wants basically rejoin the Elite and take his title. Hangman says that it's not what he's going to do. He doesn't want to rejoin the Elite. Omega says that he is a tryhard like all of these people. Says that they stayed up all night, maybe forgiving for his sins, but then he thinks about what the Elite was compared to what it is now, and Hangman, he doesn't want Hangman to be, Omega doesn't want any failures in his group. That's what he says. And Hangman is just a loser, and he is a failure, and there's no failures in the group. What happens after that? Hangman all of a sudden slaps Omega out of nowhere. The Good Brothers and then the Young Bucks attack him. Of course, the disadvantage, multiple 4 on 1. I mean, that's a disadvantage, of course. Then the Dark Order comes out, but Stu Grayson and Evil Uno prevent the rest of the Dark Order. Guys like Alex Reynolds and John Silver. They get prevented by the rest of the Dark Order by Stu Grayson and Evil Uno. And then all of a sudden, the Young Bucks hit 3 BTE triggers on Hangman. After that, the Elite Hunter, Frankie Kazarian, comes in to help Hangman. They proceed to throw Karrion on the Kazarian. I said Karrion. Karrion Kross, I was about to say Karrion. They proceed to throw Kazarian to the outside. Omega says that he's going to give Hangman one more chance to look at that title. And then all of a sudden, Omega hits Hangman with the title, and he stands tall, and the segment ends. What are my thoughts on this segment? A lot of people are saying that, Meltzer stated, we're not going to be seeing, most likely, Hangman versus Omega at All Out. Instead, what are we going to get? Now, we got Christian Cage as the number 1 contender, but, is that really going to happen at All Out? Who knows? I really enjoyed this segment. The reason why I enjoyed this segment was because of the fact that it was a lot of storytelling going on, and it really makes you seem that, this is over for Hangman, but you as the viewer eventually will know that Hangman will get that title. It's just that they're trying to create that illusion of, hey, this is it for Hangman. He's no longer challenging for that title. But, what happens after this? Who knows? We're basically going to have to watch what happens on Dynamite, and you never know, some things can happen on Rampage as well. So I'm really excited to see what happens after that. We got a Dan Lambert video package talking about the attack by Lance Archer that happened a couple weeks ago on the Road Rager, and says that he will be on Dynamite next week. Do I care? No. We got Miro versus Lee Johnson for the TNT Championship. Miro looked really good in this match. Of course, I like the way that they're booking Miro for the TNT Championship. Miro is doing great right now. I think Miro is booked really well, and I think that, they're booking him as an unstoppable force. That's what I really enjoy about AEW booking Miro. The match starts. Lee runs in to Miro. Then Miro hits a clothesline. We get a right hand by Miro. Miro works on Johnson into the corner. Then we get Let's Go Miro, and then Let's Go Johnson. No, Let's Go Lee chance. So we get a mixed crowd reaction. We get a kick by Lee, kick from the apron by Johnson. He goes to the top. Then we get a crossbody by Lee Johnson. Miro catches Lee and plants him to the mat. Lee escapes Miro from applying his signature submission. Miro continues to work on Lee Johnson in the outside during the commercial break. Once we're back from break, Miro applies a lock on Lee. Miro lets go. We get a couple chops by Lee. Lee with a counter. Miro then hits the knee. Lee fights back. We got a drop kick by Lee Johnson. Drop kick to the back of Miro after that. We got a suicide dive by Lee Johnson. Then we get a second suicide dive by Lee Johnson. Then we get a somersault after that by Lee. Miro tried to hit a powerbomb when Lee Johnson tried to hit the somersault, but he failed. Lee goes to the top. Then he hits a crossbody. We get a cover, but barely. We barely got a 2 count. We got a 1 count. So, I mean, again, great what they're doing with Miro. We get a couple kicks by Lee. We get a released German suplex by Miro. Lee lands on his feet. We got a couple kicks by Lee. We got a thrust kick by Lee after that. Then we get another kick by Johnson. Me catches Lee after that, but Lee is in the corner and hits another kick. He goes to the top. Then Lee hits a frog splash on Miro from the top, and then we get a cover and a near fall. But then Miro proceeds to choke Lee, but he escapes. He tries to pick up Miro, but it doesn't happen. Miro escapes and hits a thrust kick, and then he applies the camel clutch submission, and Lee taps out. Miro retains the TNT Championship. What are my thoughts on this match? I thought this was a pretty good match. Both wrestlers looked great. Lee Johnson especially. I mean, Miro looks great. He looked phenomenal in that match. But Lee looked really good in that match. Goes to show you what they really think of Lee Johnson. And, Lee Johnson showed a lot of courage in that match. I mean, Lee looked really good in that match. I mean, it was obvious that we all knew that Lee Johnson was not going to go over in this match. I feel like AEW has a lot of plans for Miro for the TNT Championship. I mean, he's going to be holding on to that title for a long period of time. We don't even know who's going to take the title off of him. I mean, I assume it's going to be somebody that, AEW is thinking really highly of, maybe somebody like a Sammy Guevara. I'm just throwing names out there, but I mean, Miro's going to be having that title for a long period of time. We get Tony Schiavone backstage interviewing Christian Cage. He says that he is the number 1 contender for Kenny Omega's AEW World Title, and he thanks Layla Hirsch for helping him. And then after that, he says that he came back to cement his legacy and to win championships, and says next week he will be on Dynamite and Rampage, and says that he is elite. What is that? What is that about? We don't know. But about Christian Cage being the number 1 contender for the AEW World Title, I'm kind of 50-50 on it. If it happens at All Out, I don't want to say disappointed, but I mean, ever since they brought in Christian at Revolution, I was kind of like skeptical, and we kind of all had those assumptions of, hey, Christian is most likely going to be challenging Kenny Omega. We just don't know when. A lot of people are saying it's going to be Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega at All Out. But who knows? It could easily be at a special episode of Dynamite, or I'm just going to throw it out there. It can be on a random Rampage show. So who knows what can happen? But I mean, Christian Cage is the number 1 contender for the AEW World Title. I think it's going to be a great match. Christian Cage looks great at his age. Not only that, he's going to be wrestling one of the best, if not the best wrestler in the world in Kenny Omega. I mean, it's going to be an awesome match to see. We get the Bunny versus Layla Hirsch in an eliminator match for the NWA Women's World Championship. Of course, the current champion is Camille. And so the match starts. Layla comes out with her best friends, or with the best friends, I should say. Of course, Orange Cassidy, the rest of the best friends, all that stuff. Bunny pushes Layla after that. Layla with a couple forearms. Bunny's on the outside. We got a suicide dive by Layla on the Bunny. Takes Bunny into the corner, tries to apply the cross arm breaker. We get a backstabber by Bunny. Sends Layla to the outside. We get a drop kick by Bunny on Layla to the guardrail. Stares at Camille, who is in the crowd. So Camille, who is the NWA Women's Champion, is in the crowd. I don't watch the NWA, so yeah, that's just me. I'm just saying I don't watch NWA. Stares at Camille, who's in the crowd. Back from commercial break, we get kick by Layla Hirsch. Layla misses a moonsault. Bunny with a kick picks up Layla, then hits a Death Valley driver. We get a cover and a near fall. Layla applies the cross arm breaker after that. Bunny taps out. Layla wins. Layla Hirsch is the number 1 contender against Camille for the NWA Women's Championship. So that will be a great match to see. I don't know what is going to be. I think it's going to be in NWA pay-per-view. Correct me if I'm wrong. I have to look that up because I do not follow the NWA. A lot of people, of course, are watching NWA Power. I don't watch NWA Power, so that's just me. But Camille is going to be facing Layla Hirsch for the NWA Women's Championship. Then Camille goes to the ring and then faces off against Layla Hirsch in the ring. We get a backstage segment with Jade Cargill with Mark Sterling. Talks about why she's not wrestling. She's busy doing business and says that she will be wrestling again on Elevation. I do not watch Elevation, or I don't watch Dark either. Jade says that she is that bitch, and then in the side of the screen, you got hashtag Jade Brand. So, yeah, Jade is going to be wrestling again. That's great. But we got our main event of the evening, the in-ring debut of Malakai Black, a.k.a. Tommy End, going up against the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. A lot of people are saying this, but this was a big match feel. You know, Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross on commentary were saying that. This is a big match feel. This felt like a big match feel. The Jacksonville crowd was really excited to see this match. First off, Malakai Black's entrance looked awesome. I loved his new entrance. I loved his theme song in the WWE. I dug his theme song, the theme song that they used in NXT, of course. Awesome ass theme song. If the thing is, this was the thing in NXT, like the NXT crowd was more of a hardcore crowd. The main roster crowd was more of a casual crowd. So in NXT, when Aleister Black would come out, the crowd would just sing his theme song. But once he came up to the main roster, like the crowd did not even sing his theme song at all. Like they just didn't sing anything at all. But I will say Malakai Black's entrance in AEW is really badass. It looks awesome. It looks edgy. It looks scary. That's what I like in wrestling. I love edginess in wrestling. And, a character like Malakai Black is something that I enjoy in my wrestling. So it's awesome to see that. So the match starts, and needless to say that this match did not go long at all. I mean, this match started around 9:50, around there, because the entrances were going on. But, I mean, let's be straight up. This match did not last long at all. Yes, Cody did get some offense, but, I mean, Malachi got more of that offense in this match. So the match starts, both lock up. We get a waist lock switch. Cody takes the knee of Black. We get a right hand by Black. Then Cody with an elbow strike. Then Black applies a knee bar. Cody tries to go for the figure four, but Black gouges the eye of Cody Rhodes. Malakai Black with a couple kicks. Then we get a leg sweep by Black. After that, we get a single leg Boston Crab by Black on Cody. Cody goes to the ropes. Fans are chanting Malakai at this point. Goes to show you, fans are loving Malakai Black. Same as I am. Black misses a big boot. Cody tries to go for the crossroads, but Black escapes. Right hand by Cody. Cody goes to the top, but then Black kicks Cody right in the face. And then Cody falls outside of the ring through a table, which was a crazy spot. Fans are chanting, "This is awesome," after that. Then Black, in typical Malakai Black or Aleister Black or Tommy End, whatever you want to call him, fashion, sits down in the middle of the ring like he always does. So after sitting down in the ring, Cody beats the count from the referee. But then, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Malakai Black hits the Black Mask. Cover, 1, 2, 3. Malakai Black wins the match and annihilates Cody Rhodes. What are my thoughts on this match? This was the right way to go at it. I would have been extremely disappointed if they had Cody go over in this match, just like they did with Anthony Ogogo. But when it comes to Anthony Ogogo, I feel like they had to have Cody Rhodes go over. I mean, Cody Rhodes versus Anthony Ogogo, the match wasn't good. But, I mean, it was one of those matches where you really didn't know who was going to win. But in this case, with Malakai Black versus Cody Rhodes, Malakai Black 100% needed to win this match. And thankfully, AEW made the right booking decision by having Malakai Black win the match, because then it elevates, in his first match of AEW, he annihilates Cody Rhodes, and now he's elevated up to here. I guarantee you, in at least within a year, Malakai Black will eventually be AEW World Champion. This guy is main event caliber. He's a main event caliber wrestler, main event caliber talent, and that's that. But after that, Tony Schiavone is basically Joe Rogan, and he comes in and interviews Cody. He gives Cody time, and then Cody says, Cody cuts a promo and says that legacy is a funny thing. You know, he says he got into wrestling when he was 15, and all he wanted to do was to win a title that was taken from his father. Cody stands up. We get a little bit of a crowd reaction, but after that, Cody takes the crutch and he leaves it in the corner of the ring. Then he says that he fired them and they didn't fire him. Says that he met the Elite and says 3 years ago, a lot of people were laughing at them because they were quote-unquote starting a revolution. Then we all of a sudden get AEW chants from the crowd. It's awesome when the crowd chants AEW. Then after that, he says now it's a commonplace and it's destination viewing. An alternative. And then, you know, Cody Rhodes states we're competition. So that's kind of a nod to Vince McMahon. Yeah, we're competition. Because as you guys know, Vince McMahon on that investors call stated that AEW is not competition, but their actions show that they do view AEW as competition. So then he says that they set this table, and for 3 years, his face was on everything. Says that he's been so damn lucky. He says that he loves his friends deeply, and with all respect to Daly's Place, to him, this is the AEW amphitheater. And says that there's no better place. He thanks the fans. Then he proceeds to take off his boot. So he takes off one of his boots, and what happens is that, you know, the crowd is starting to be like, what the hell's going on? The commentators are like, you know, we know what happens when a wrestler's done. You know, this happens. But then all of a sudden, Malakai Black comes in out of nowhere, hits Cody from behind with the crutch, and the show ends. What are my thoughts on this whole thing that went down after the whole Malakai Black and Cody Rhodes match ended? It was awesome to see Malakai Black win. This whole thing where Cody Rhodes was doing this speech of, like, you know, quote unquote retiring. I don't think he's going to be retiring anytime soon, if you ask me. I mean, that's just me. But I mean, I do believe that Cody Rhodes and Malakai will eventually have another match down the road. When? I do not know. But I mean, from what we've seen, I mean, this feud is not over. And Malakai Black, you know, basically in the middle of his quote unquote retirement speech, because look, let's be straight up, Cody Rhodes ain't retiring. You know, Malakai Black just hits him with the freaking crutch and the show ends. What are my thoughts? That was an awesome moment, in my opinion. You know, it's a good way to showcase Malakai Black as this huge threat, and AEW is basically telling the viewer, hey, take this guy seriously because this guy's gonna be huge. And from what we've seen from this quote unquote segment after the match, I mean, yeah, you're gonna take this guy seriously, and 100%, I do believe Malakai Black will eventually be AEW World Champion. Like, this guy is main event caliber. I don't care what anybody says, Malakai Black is money. And this guy is extremely creative, and, you know, he's an awesome addition to the roster. And, you know, having Malakai Black in AEW annihilating Cody Rhodes is awesome to see. And it goes to show you what Cody Rhodes cares. Like, it goes to show you that Cody Rhodes cares about the talent that's coming in, because I remember when AEW first started, a lot of people were kind of skeptical about guys like, you know, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and Cody Rhodes being the EVPs, because they were saying, oh, they're going to put themselves over like Kevin Nash and WCW. Cody Rhodes, I mean, granted, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are the champions now. Of course, the Young Bucks are the tag champions, and Omega is the world champion. But when AEW started, the Bucks were putting over a lot of guys. Like, hell, they lost in that first round tournament against Private Party, if you guys remember. Private Party beat the Young Bucks clean. Not only that, of course, they're telling the story with Omega, of course, losing a lot. He lost that match with Jericho. And Cody, I mean, he had that match with Jericho, and he did say that he's never going to be challenging for the AEW World title again. And look what he's doing now. He put over guys like Brody Lee. Of course, you guys don't remember, on that Saturday Night Dynamite, they had a TNT Championship match, and Brody Lee annihilated Cody Rhodes. It's kind of similar with Malakai Black. Malakai Black just annihilated Cody Rhodes, and goes to show you what Cody Rhodes thinks of the young talent. And it's awesome to see Cody Rhodes put over the young talent because he cares. He cares about the young talent, and he cares about the talent that they bring in, and he knows that there's a lot of talent out there that is extremely creative, and Malakai Black is one of those guys. And the fact that Cody Rhodes put over Malakai Black is awesome to see. Cody Rhodes is one of the best people in the wrestling business, period, because he's putting over a lot of people, and that's awesome. If you're a wrestler, you would love to put over somebody that you know will print money, and Malakai Black is one of them. But yeah, overall thoughts, Malakai Black, annihilates Cody Rhodes. I know I stated that like multiple times, but it's awesome to see. Overall thoughts on Dynamite. This was a not the best show. It was a pretty good show, but it was not the best show if you compare it to their previous shows, especially their previous shows when they were back on the road. But it was a pretty good show to see. Overall thoughts, it was a good show. And yeah, that was my Dynamite Homecoming review. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, follow me on social media on Instagram and Twitter. Be on the lookout for my Rampage reviews and the live streams that I'm going to be starting up for SummerSlam and also All Out. So be on the lookout for those. But yeah, this is Broken Havoc from the Broken Havoc podcast. Signing out.